Bam! Welcome to Mike Sports. I'm Eric, joined as always by Landry. How you doing tonight?
What's up?
I figured the best thing to do, man, we just got to get right into this. Let's talk more about the Black Lives Matter movement. Let's talk more about the
all lives
protests.
matter. We all know that. That's all I got to say. All right.
All right, now that we moved on from that.
That's how politicians should handle that shit.
Yeah, like just cool. Everybody should live. Let's move on from that. Let's talk a little bit about Major League Baseball. Tonight is the Major League Baseball draft. I've been watching here. I know, right?
No attention this year.
No, it gets the Major League Baseball draft doesn't really get much attention anyway. These guys go right into the minors. I've always said the reason why basketball and football drafts get so much more attention is because their rookies play right away. And whereas, it's hard to get somebody's attention where it's like, hey, we drafted this guy, and he's going to be a star in, maybe 5 years.
Yeah. They're like, hey, if you come out to the cornfield and buy some popcorn, you can see him tomorrow.
It's like, great. If you if you're the Phillies, it's like, great. Our star will be playing in Clearwater, Florida tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, great. I don't live in Clearwater.
They're like, hey, we're holding a rookie freaking camp. Everybody's going to be there. It's going to be a huge spectacle. Where's it going to be at? It's going to be in Anchorage, Alaska. What? It's like,
yes.
Yeah, a place where no one can get to. You basically got to take a ferry, which is known as a block of ice that you float on in Alaska to where it's at, So.
And where they have a monument for the glacier that sank the Titanic, even though that was on the other side of the world.
Exactly. And one of the pieces of ice carved in it is Black Lives Matter, but it sunk to the bottom. Boom!
So Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, the commissioner, had some interesting words earlier saying they will be playing baseball this year. That's the most encouraging thing I've heard from Major League Baseball. Now, granted, he didn't give any information to back that up. Yeah. He didn't say anything about if they agreed to anything. He just said, we're going to play baseball this year. Great. Jay, why don't me, you, and 7 other people just go out back here? We'll just start playing baseball.
And if they can't come to an agreement, that may be what happens. When's the last time we went through the whole don't bring them
ready?
Exactly. When was it? Was it 95 when they said don't bring the regular players back? We'll just use backups?
Right. Yeah, because the 94 strike, they hadn't settled it over the winter.
Yeah.
And basically that was what they were going to do. They were going to have scab players take the role of Major League Baseball players. And in the end, they did some spring training like that. And there was a pitcher for the Mets that lasted for a few years that was originally one of the scab players. And then he ended up making the team and being a player for them for a while.
Mike Piazza. I kid. That is the pitcher?
Right. It's funny story about Mike Piazza. He's actually from the Philadelphia area.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
So does he deliver pizzas there now?
Well, there's a Piazza Honda out in Norristown where he's from.
Yeah, I think that's why I was making a joke. He's probably got a couple of companies. I imagine he laid down.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's funny. One of his cousins is a contractor that comes in where I work all the time, and so I see him, and we're always making jokes. He's just like baseball. He's like, Mets haven't been good since we lost Mike Piazza. I'm just like, you just want to take a chance to bring up your nephew every now and then.
I know. That always happens. We have Yao Ming here, where Olajuwon, they have restaurants that there's a collision body shop with their name on it. I'm like, how in the world? That's nothing to do with who you are. What kind of shady shit are y'all doing with these little rinky dink places you're buying?
Making money off the name.
Yeah.
Just like Mark Brunell, the Whataburgers.
Oh, I feel bad for him on that. He got screwed on that because Whataburger's a great franchise, but I think he just overextended himself.
You're right.
Yeah. I mean, that dude had. I think I looked at his career. I think he had made $67 million, and the dude had to file for bankruptcy. I mean, he ran out of money, and then basically became Mark Sanchez's moral support on the Jets to make money. I mean, it's all he really was. Yeah. So, I look back at that and I'm like, that's a sad case. But, we could go through a lot of those sad cases who had it all and blew it all. Some over
Well,
drugs or alcohol, and others because
yeah.
investment's gone bad.
And that's the kind of stuff that Dak Prescott may not have to worry about how his money investments will go, since he doesn't want to see to sign a contract.
Dude, I tell you what, man, 175 million 5-year deal, basically turned it down. It's very clear at this point Dak wants over 40 million plus, or he doesn't believe the Cowboys are doing him right. And I get what he's trying to do. We talked about it last time. He's trying to adjust himself so that he's when Mahomes signs his, he's still in the echelon of the 40 million people, for the next 6 quarterbacks to sign deals. That's what he's trying to do. I think as evidence shows that signing too much or paying too much for a quarterback, even when market says to do it, just isn't always the best thing. I think Wentz was overpaid. I think Goff was overpaid. I think a lot of these guys are overpaid. They set the market, and that's because it's market value, not because they're the best thing since sliced bread. We all know quarterback's top tier position. I don't think anybody argues with that. That's just stupid logic if you do. But I think it's crazy. At this point, here's what I feel about Dak. Start Andy Dalton, go get Cam Newton as his backup, and let them fight to be the superstar of the Dallas Cowboys. And then whoever that ends up being, give them a $35 million contract, kiss Dak goodbye. Just trade him somewhere else at this point. Get rid of him. To me, I was already on the fence when this dude didn't accept $32 million. But now that he's turned down the 5-year, 175 million 5-year, I'm like, I am done with Dak Prescott. I always say the same thing. If he's playing day one, they get something done, obviously I'm going to support him. But at this point, if I had to make a choice, dude, I have no more love at this position with Dak Prescott. Cut him, move on. This dude is overplaying his hand. And I get it. Dak Prescott is a very hard talent to evaluate because he's really good as far as wins, his percents and whatnot. But there's something that keeps you a little pullback going. I need to see a little more out of him. And he's saying, I've earned mine. All that's there and whatnot. But in the end, I still put Dak as the 14th best quarterback in the league, which puts him at almost halfway through all the teams. So when I do that in perspective, I'm like, market value, he's not a market value quarterback as far as the top 10. So when people talk market value, I think Kirk Cousins, like Dak Prescott, although I think he's better than that, but I find him somewhere in between the Kirk Cousins of the world and the Matthew Staffords of the world. And I have him in between that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Not in talent, in value. Right. I've done that in value. Well,
in value, what they bring to their team. Dak Prescott, I think, is a very, very talented quarterback who does a lot for the Cowboys. But, I mean, like you say, he's overplaying his hand. He might want to watch himself. I don't think he's the kind of quarterback that can just blossom in every, system. There are some guys that just their natural ability is going to be able to carry them through playing in any system. Dallas really geared a system that would work well for Dak, and that's why he had early success. And I think
and none of this talk
more credit needs to go to a Jason
Dak has talent, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, you play for the Dallas Cowboys. We saw you in preseason. You stood out right away. Mm-hmm. We all know you're talented. We all know you can play ball. But when we're going to start talking and assessing your value across the 32 teams of the NFL, your market value is not a Patrick Mahomes value. It's just not. It's not even to me a card. And I think Wentz is overpaid. So given that I think Wentz is overpaid, if I bring Wentz down to what I think he should pay, I think Dak is below that. So,
right.
I think Dak has lost the leverage. COVID has dented the season. I think COVID has put a lot of things in jeopardy. I think
we'll put a lot of things in perspective too. Yeah. It's like, okay, we're really going to pay all these guys all this money. I mean, we're just worried about making sure we have a season, and then this guy's going to cry foul over not getting $40 million. Like, come on.
Well, I told you my range is 28 to 34 million. Mm-hmm. I thought we would settle at 32 with him, but I'd be willing to go to 34. Now that he's turned down the 175 over 5 years, that's ludicrous to me at this point, dude. I'm like,
well, that breaks down to what, about 34 a year?
What?
The 175 over 5 years?
That's 35 million. That's $1 million more than I would have even given him. And he turned that down. I'm like, dude, you were making $2 million last year.
He hung up on the 40 million thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I was like, dude, you were making $2 million last year, and now you're looking at a $35 million contract starting this year. And we don't even have to do that. We could just franchise you. And we all know the franchise tag is going to drop by next year because of COVID.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're going to have a reason to drop it. There's just not going to be as much money spent on football. The cap is probably not going to increase, and revenue's probably
Well,
going to
it's
be down.
not by as much as we thought.
Yeah.
Revenue's not going to
It's
be
probably going
what
to be
they
down.
thought.
I wouldn't say crazy, but I'm thinking 10% across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do that, if I take 175 million, I take 10% off that. Well, there goes almost half a year of worth of money out of your contract.
Well, think about it. All the people right now that are laid off. They're not bringing in the kind of money that they would have been bringing in.
Watching football games on TV.
Yeah. What's the first thing you cut now? You're not going to games. Yeah. You're not going to buy the jerseys.
Yeah. You're not paying for parking. You're not paying for concession. Right. You're not paying for beer. You're not paying for food. You're not paying for merchandise at the stadium.
Right.
So it's just to me, it's a different experience. I think I'm curious to see how preseason tickets sell this year. Normally it's about a 70% filled stadium during a preseason. I'm curious to see if it's like around 50% this time. And there's less games this year. So
they're cutting down to 2 preseason games, right?
3.
I heard something.
3. It's 3.
Okay.
Right. It's 17. They basically traded one more game during the season for one less preseason game. That's what they did.
Well, yeah, but this year that kicks off starting next season.
I thought that was
this season.
Oh, okay. I thought that was 2020.
Yeah. Now 2021 is when the new CBA kicks in, and that's when they're going to 17 games, 3 preseason games. But because of concerns about COVID, I think they're already planning. I don't know if they've announced that they're officially doing it or that they're planning for the possibility of cutting out 2 preseason games. That's the only real thing the NFL said. Okay, maybe we might cut out. Everything else is like, nope. We're gonna kick off in September. We're gonna have fans in the stands. We don't care what anybody says.
Dude, it's okay. So it says the NFL released its regular season schedule on May 7th.
Mm-hmm.
The season will be played over a 17-week schedule, beginning on Thursday.
Yeah, 17 weeks, but everybody gets a bye.
Yeah, in September 10th, 2020. Each of the league's 32 teams will play a 16-game schedule with 1 bye week. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're right. Some reason I thought it kicked in this year. I don't know why. That makes sense. I mean, the CPA is
because they made their agreement, and so you figured, okay, they must kick in now.
Just me not looking at it right. What do you think about the 4th and 15 rule?
I like the idea. I mean, it seems kind of gimmicky.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I like it. They want to find a way to make it safer instead of onside kicks.
They're really trying to, in the end, I mean, the NFL really wants to get rid of the kickoffs, just in general.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, hey, that's where 25% of our injuries come from. You take kickoffs out and a quarter of injuries fall off the map, basically, is the way they look at it.
And I get it.
But you have to have kickoff. You have to kickoff is like a staple. It's a feeling. It's an excitement. It's like the timing. I don't want to see the start of the game. You just get, you're on the 20 ready to go. I'm like,
Well, and I like the way this is one of the things they could steal from the XFL, the way the XFL did it, where the players are lined up 5 yards apart as opposed to the 50, so they can't get the running start, and they can't go until the kicker or until the returner touches the football.
See, and I actually like that. I actually like that. But to me, that's hard to gauge. How do I know exactly when that dude's getting the football? Right? Is it I forget, is it a whistle in the XFL they would blow and then the guys knew they could run? I don't remember.
I don't recall it. I don't think there was a whistle. I think it was just
I want to take 8 seconds of silence for the XFL. No, nobody put something on the XFL's neck for 8 seconds. I'm just saying the XFL, dude, I feel bad for them.
9 minutes.
I feel bad for the XFL. I do think they had a good product this time. I think they did it right. I think COVID, basically, it's another business burned out by COVID.
Well, have they announced if there's no plans for it to come back next year?
Let me look that up while you're talking.
I haven't, because I haven't heard anything about whether or not they have any plans to come back. Because there was talks, it was really being very successful, getting rave reviews from football fans, and there was talk about it was garnering a lot of support that they would expand. I know Philadelphia was one of the cities that was in the market looking at possibly getting an XFL team next year.
The XFL suspended operations Friday morning and multiple sources told ESPN that the league has laid off nearly all of its staff. A handful of executives remain, and it currently has no plans to return in 2021.
Ouch.
So, yeah, it sounds like that's the end.
That's
And that sucks because it literally is only because of COVID. If it wasn't for that, they probably would have gave it at least a 3 to 5 year run to see if they could establish anything. They would.
Yeah, and I would love to see if Vince McMahon needs to find some other investors to get in with him.
Well, he needs to find some deeper pockets that can hang through a crisis of a year or two and not be like, oh, we'll go bankrupt if we continue. And I hate to say it, but go find some Saudi Arabia oil Saudi kings or something who love America.
Well, supposedly, like WWE's put on some shows in Saudi Arabia, despite some of the protests about the treatment of women in Saudi Arabia, and then
whatever.
And
like, to me, the way I look at it is I'm like, Vince, my friend, was telling me I'm a lot like Dana White. Like, when he's asked political, he's like, I don't fucking care. He's like, I'm care about the UFC. I'm not interested in all the other bullshit surrounds everybody's attitude and how they feel and shit. He's like, I'm about the UFC. You don't like COVID? I can't have you here? Cool. We're going to go fight on an island. Like, I like that kind of attitude. I think WWE should have very similar, like, hey, if it's expanding the business and making it stronger, which employs women, by the way, fuck it. Go have it in Saudi Arabia.
Well, it's funny. They have been putting on their shows at their performance center that they have in Florida with no fans. Although recently, in the last few weeks, what they've had is a lot of the trainees, the guys who are working in their developmental, they've had them just be out in the crowd and be the crowd.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, man, I don't mean just employees women like wrestlers. Like, dude, WWE has operational, corporate. A lot of women are employed there. Yeah. Like, having more matches and more revenue only helps those people too. So, the way I look at it is, who cares if that's how they feel about women and whatnot? Well, by having stuff there and strengthening the brand, you're strengthening the women that are employed there to begin with WWE.
Well, and they've done things like they got the Saudis to agree. Like they had women at their last show at the Saudi show back in what was that, February? In fact, it might have been their last big show that they had fans at. And they made a big deal about it. Hey, it's the first time women get to compete in Saudi Arabia, and it's like, there you go. See, you took a negative, the fact they wouldn't let women do things like that, and you turned it into a positive because, hey, now we are letting women compete in this.
Look, I'm all about like that kind of thing, but I don't believe like things should suffer because you have a fear or an anger issue with some kind of point of view. If overall it helps, but there's like a 10% section where you're kind of like, we don't want to do it here, or we don't like that they don't do this. I'm just, to me, that's the bad apple spoiling the whole thing. Well, the whole thing is make the brand stronger regardless, which employs women, which gives them money in their pocket, which keeps them employed and grows a business where possibly more women can be hired. So I look at it from a different perspective than Saudi Arabia is doing something wrong. I'm like, fuck it. Use them to make us stronger.
Well, and I also looked at it as this was an opportunity for you to bring light to that situation.
Yeah.
By going over there, and then all of a sudden that's talked about more, and you get them, and that puts pressure on them to say, okay, well, we'll have women compete on the show here. Okay, well, now maybe we need to start expanding and getting more women's rights because WWE came and they shed more light on some of our issues.
Right, and I look at it like, look, I'm a big proponent of, a lot of people believe if you're in a certain position that you should be a mentor. Not me. I think it's a choice. If you're a company that doesn't give a shit about like political items and whatnot, I have no problem with that. Like, I'm okay when companies are like, we're not interested in the whole political battle. We don't care. We have a business to run. I'm okay with that. I don't care who protests, if they're outside your business trying to shut you. I don't care. Like, move on with life. I'm obviously as a life coach, I'm big on moving forward. And I think people spend too much time being emotionally hung up on one thing for too long. And because of that, that actually creates a detriment. It doesn't actually add to getting a place at the table to move things forward. You basically dig a hole more than you move things forward when you spend so much time emotionally involved like that. I am disappointed to see the NFL come out and say what they said. Roger Goodell saying we got it wrong. I don't think they got it wrong. In fact, I think they played it pretty safe on both sides of the fence. They didn't go all out and be like, we don't want Colin Kaepernick. We don't want that. But they also said, look, we get it. You guys kneel or whatnot. Like, we're just not going to show the national anthem, but go ahead and kneel. I think they played it both sides. So coming out and apologizing, Drew Brees coming out and apologizing, to me, all mistakes. Your gut statement is usually your real statement. I'm okay with it. Stand by it. Even if it's against me, at least I know where you stand and I can respect that you have a different view. And I'm tired of seeing people apologize for having a different view, not the wrong view. Because let's remember, no matter what people say, 50% of this country believes it one way, 50% believes it the other way. I believe psychologically we're born with a certain kind of wiring of thinking. There will always be conservatives, there will always be liberals. No one can ever eliminate the other, no matter what they try. And I think you just need to get over the fact that we're indifferent. And I don't like the fact that Drew Brees said what he said and then felt the need to apologize and backtrack it. I'm okay with him adding to it or changing it, but you shouldn't apologize for your initial reaction.
Right. I mean, look, I said, I think I said it on this show, and I know I said it on a couple of my other shows. Hey, you know what? The players kneeling that's their right. Yeah. Drew Brees having an opinion that doesn't like that, that's his right. Yeah. Like, he's allowed to have that opinion. Like,
yeah, this isn't Nazi Germany. You can't silence it one way or the other. It's not one or the other. It's no, you both get to equally say what you want. At the end of the day, get back to playing football because that's your job. Like, that's your career.
I mean, the statement was they're allowed to kneel and he's allowed to not like it.
Yeah. And I get it, like what people are saying.
All right, we're grown men and let's go to work.
I'm agreeing. People are saying, "Oh, kneeling to the flag is making a statement." I go, "No, what it is, you're messing up your own argument. You're making people focus on that they feel like that's disrespect. What if you did it at a different time? What if you either did it before, or you did it after, or you did it during a halftime show, where people can go? If they did it in a halftime show, honestly, I would have no freaking issue because I'd be like, you know what? You're taking a time where you're allowed to be on the field, sideline, whatever." And there's nothing to respect. It's just a halftime show. If y'all all sat in a line and kneeled and made a statement during it, totally understandable. I'd even probably support it in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
But when you're taking that moment, you're taking an argument that should be about, that you feel that black people are unjustly, taking violence from cops and whatnot. Instead, you're making it about the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem, I'm sorry, which to me is a distraction to your own cause. It's just stupid. You're messing up your own movement by doing it like that. You're taking away from what would be a solid argument or an argument that people could pay attention to without distraction, and you're throwing a distraction on top of it. Like, it's just stupid. To me, it's a bad move.
Yeah, I definitely, and I remember saying it at the time.
You're creating divide. Yeah.
That what they were doing was taking away from their movement, Colin Kaepernick in particular, and anybody else that followed suit, because once you made it about the national anthem, then you struck a chord with
you drew a line.
Demographic.
Yeah, you drew a line between people. And I stand with Drew Brees. I like what he came out and said. I'll never be for anything that disrespects the flag. And I totally what he should have said is I'm never going to be for something, or I will never stand for disrespecting the flag, but I will also never stand for injustice or violence against people who don't deserve it. I would say I can be for both. I don't want both of them even touching. That's what I would have said if I was.
Yeah, I was going to say, why are they mutually exclusive?
Yeah.
Why is it that you can't both support the idea that, innocent lives should not be taken, and also think, well, you know what? I also don't want our flag disrespected.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with both? Like, I don't understand.
No, I do understand. I do understand what the problem is. The understand is people get entrenched in their belief system, and the other one is just wholeheartedly, outwardly wrong, no discussion, don't care, violence is the answer, yelling is the answer, over-talking them is the answer. And to me, those are the people who actually never create change because you're too extreme that people can't take you seriously. Whether you be conservative or liberal, if you're extreme in either one of those, if you're some religious fanatic, you're going to be tuned out. If you're some person trying to cause violence to make your point or yelling or never accepting a conversation from an opposite point of view, no one can take you seriously. In the end, like all things, life is balance. So in essence, I am disappointed with the NFL's reaction to all this. I think they are making themselves look stupid, in my opinion. Like they had it wrong the entire time. I'm like, no, your fans are what dictated what you did. You're independently deciding that it's wrong as a brand. I'm like, okay, cool, but don't dismiss the fans who don't agree because there's a lot of them.
And it's going to be, like, look,
that's why I said I think revenue is going to be down. I don't think it's just because of COVID. I think it's just going to be down.
Look, on the Football Smack Talk show, we had a very avid listener, somebody who I hope continues to listen, really come at my co-host Ryan about his take on the whole thing.
Yeah.
And in his opinion was that he felt like maybe Drew Brees definitely has a right to his opinion. I think was the wording of it, and he just thought maybe the timing of Drew Brees bringing up the kneeling at the anthem may not have been the best timing, considering the pulse of the nation at the time. And just like you can again continue to have that opinion, and maybe just talk about it at a different time when like we're not going through what we're going through.
Yeah.
And like that was the gist of his opinion, and the backlash that he got from one of our listeners. I mean, it was crazy.
See, the whole premise
because Ryan didn't agree with that listener's point of view that that they're right away they're disrespecting the flag, they're they're disrespecting troops, and he goes in, he went into his family lineage about people who had served in the armed forces. And it felt like that kneeling during the anthem was disrespecting them.
So your co-host was for what's going on or against, and the caller was against.
Ryan is more, I guess, in the camp of supporting the black. Well, I mean, I don't want to say supporting the Black Lives Matters movement because I mean, at the heart of it, the idea that minorities should not be targeted. I'd like to think that we're all behind that.
Yeah. Well, I still stand behind. Like, I don't care what anybody says. To me, A, it's about culture, and B, I'm all about humans not being targeted. They can make it about black, but to me, they're doing themselves a disservice by doing that. If they would attack the human cause of it, honestly think they would have such a broad stroke of support, well beyond what they currently have. But they won't do it because they're too focused on one centric area, and I think they've actually done themselves a disservice. I think they've excluded a lot of people.
It creates a further divide. Yeah. Now, I think that there's been a lot more people today, and maybe a lot more, like none of the celebrities that have, like, people that I'm friends with have done a good job, like, on Facebook and social medias, addressing the fact that, hey, you know what, when we say, things like Black Lives Matters, we're not saying only Black Lives Matter. We're saying that, ours matter too.
I think this comes down to a culture that is too caught up in words. This is too much wording to be worried about. Too many, I heard so-and-so on their Twitter said this, and then they look, can you believe they said that? I'm like, first of all, dude, if words are what you were driven by, people are like, words have power, and words have to those who see it that way, yes. But there are those of us who don't, where we think thought and action are what actually puts things into action and motion, not what someone says all the time. God, if I went by how many people I've coached over a lifetime that have spoken off the cuff in a relationship, well, shit, nobody should ever date or get married then. If I went by that, if I went by the words, right? You know what I mean? So that would be my analogy is that this is a world too caught up in words. And if you live like that, you're going to be disappointed for the rest of your life. That's what I would tell somebody. If words are what dictate how you feel every day, consider yourself be a disappointed person from here on out.
Yeah. I mean, there just has to be more, like, again, I don't like what Minnesota did with the defunding of the police department.
I know they proposed it. Did they actually do it?
They're proposing it, and I think that's actually absolutely ridiculous.
Stupid. Yeah. Again, I go into I believe in punishing the individuals for the crime. I don't punish the system. Absolutely. Right? And what's funny is it's very conducive to what the African American community doesn't like. They don't want to be stereotyped as a group for what some have done or some that don't care, that do shootings or are part of gangs. They don't want to be judged for that. Well, I'm sure cops feel the same way. Mm-hmm. What some dumbass cops do, which nobody
I was just about to bring it up. I know I
all cops
last week. Yeah.
Right. So stop it. And to me, it's a power struggle. I believe it's a power struggle. I don't believe it's an equality struggle.
Yeah, because I mean, look, I think I mentioned it here. I know I mentioned it in other places. My father-in-law is a retired Philadelphia police officer. My brother-in-law is another police officer in the local area. And talking with them, it's like, hey, you know what? We don't like being generalized as killers any more than a black guy likes to be labeled a thug.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, and what it all comes down to is, when I tell people like you got to baseline this stuff. In psychology, what you learn is people can ramble about their feelings forever. At some point, you grab the substance of it, you drill into it, and you attack the source, right? What's happening in this country right now when it comes to football and race and what's going on is we have a fundamental disagreement about the source of the issue. And it gets drowned, even trying to get to that gets drowned out by all the emotion that people won't stop doing, like Antifa and violence, Nazi people and violence. Like, I don't want to hear from either one of those groups. Like, to me, both of y'all need to take a freaking hike. Like, I don't care about your extreme views. I care about the regular people like us who go to work 8 to 5, come home, just want to watch TV, feed our family, enjoy our life, and move forward, right? And then at most, like I said, there's only one real victim in this world, and they're called the poor. And that's it. Everybody else can fend for themselves. Like, quit being stupid. You got a better shot than anybody else does. Being poor is where your real disadvantage is in this country. And they're the only
you don't have the economics
really talk about. Yeah. I don't believe anybody else is a victim, personally. You can be a victim of a situation.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I know only the poor are lifetime victims.
Well, anyway, I know this was not the subject matter we wanted to get off into.
Well, it's still relevant. I mean, look, the NFL made a statement this week. The NBA has made lots of statements. Lots of, we got Drew Brees in controversy. You got LeBron making his can't breathe, statements and his Twitter. I'm sorry, dude. I find LeBron James ignorant. I just do. I find this guy like half brain sometimes when he talks. I'm like, like when I look at James Harden or something like that, they sound intelligent when they talk. LeBron just sounds like stay woke. He sounds like a freaking idiot. I'm like, dude, get up and speak with some higher intelligence with the kind of person you are. I want to see you speak like if you were a presidential candidate. Because to me, if you're going to stand on that kind of pedestal.
I did see somebody respond to one of his tweets. Yeah.
What?
Mm-hmm. I saw somebody respond to one of his tweets saying Jordan would have thought of something better to say.
It's true. Look, Jordan has said some good things. I think, unfortunately, I think the best person who could have spoke about this from an NBA perspective would have been Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And Kobe Bryant always spoke with intelligence. He was never emotionally stupid off the cuff.
It's that Philadelphia suburban mainline education.
Yeah, sure. I think it's the sweat when he dunked on you, when he rubbed his stomach on your face. He gained your intelligence into his bloodstream.
Every now and then, like I'm rinsing off, and I feel like some sweat glands. I'm like, that must be from Kobe Bryant when he dunked on me, 25 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, look, and Kobe Bryant's views are on this stuff on previous things when he spoke out on it were still against some of the grain of what I believe. But my point is that he said it in a respectful manner, which I could have a conversation with, right? LeBron just sounds like a freaking, to me, an ignorant fool. I can't help. I'm not a LeBron. Every time I see this dude talk, when he spoke for the Hillary campaign, I listened to him talk. When I watch how he responds, when I watch him throw a little mini fit on the basketball court, I'm sorry, I can't respect this guy, and I can respect his basketball skills, but past that, I'm like, I just don't really like you as a person.
I mean,
watching the barbershop video with Antonio Brown. It was all about Antonio Brown, and only to find out Antonio Brown was his own worst enemy. But LeBron treated him like he was a victim. Again, he bought right into the victimhood. It's like anybody who's a victim, he's just all wrapped up in it right away. He doesn't even ask questions about could they be wrong. It's like he doesn't even ask it.
Yeah, I mean, I like some of the things he said at the tribute to Kobe before the first Laker home game after Kobe's death. But
that's different. That's not controversial, right? He's saying good things. I mean, about a death of somebody. I mean, there's absolutely nothing controversial about that at the end of the day, unless you say something really stupid. But if he's been like, "Hey, now I'm he would have been like, "Now I'm definitely number one." Something like that. I would have been like, "Holy shit!" But him, doing the right thing. Look, like I said, I have obviously I can't disrespect LeBron's basketball game. He's one of the best ever. But off the court, I'm sorry, I find him an ignorant human being, in my opinion.
Yeah, and look, I think the problem, like, there's just got to be an overall sense of we're all in this together. Like, we're not like nobody wants to be, nobody wants any group of people to be sought after and murdered.
Right, and you got to be.
Nobody wants that.
You can't dismiss one fact because it doesn't support what you're trying to drive. Right. Like
Right.
they put it out. More white. I saw a study yesterday. More white Americans are
Mhm.
shot by police than blacks and killed wrongfully. By the way, period. Now, where
Right.
their argument comes in with that, where they try to argue with, is that proportionally, based on the African American, I think it's 150, like 6 blacks to 217 whites were shot. So, I mean, there's still more white shot, but what they're saying is, yeah, but you have a bigger population. So they're arguing the proportion.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, cool, fair argument. But the
Then
point
that's a fair
is,
response.
a ton
Yeah.
of white people were killed wrongfully. Is the point?
Well, I think the problem is I look at it and just say, man, that's a lot of people killed like unjustly. Like we need to
So
take a look at
you're back
this.
to the
Like
human
shoot first.
aspect, not the
Yeah.
race, and I'm a totally for that. I'm
Mhm.
all about the human aspect of it. I'm not for one group having more of an annoyance or an anger or a frustration about it than another. I'm like, look, it should be more about, do we have a problem with police brutality? Period. Not because one race
Right.
is being
I mean, hey, look, every one of those white families. I mean, those are families that are devastated too now.
and I
Those
don't hear
families
them
that
talk
lost a
about it.
family
And
member.
that's where me and the Black Lives
Right.
Matter thing clash, because I'm like, either be equally about everybody or shut up, in my opinion, because then you just show bias from the onset.
Mhm.
I'm not a big fan of bias personally. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why, like, when we talk about the Eagles, I'm like, F you. I already know you're going to say something good. And when you say something bad, you're crossing your fingers behind your back. You're like, I don't really mean it.
Well, I mean, after I say anything critical of the Eagles, I immediately call Jeffrey Lurie personally on his personal phone number, and I beg for forgiveness. And of course, his first response is, "Who the hell are you, and how the hell did you get
Yeah,
this
and
number?"
why do you keep sending me naked photos of yourself? Stop. Stop. Like, yeah. I was like that with Jerry Jones, and then he got some stupid restraining order or something. I was like, all right, dude, F you.
Look, that's just testing your love,
Yeah.
man. I've been there
Obviously,
with
you don't
restraining
care
order.
about me if you're going to get a restraining order.
He's
Just because I'm
testing
in your
your
bushes
love.
at 2 a.m. looking through your window doesn't mean that I shouldn't be around. I stayed on the outside of the house, didn't cause any trouble. No, I was kidding.
Hey, as long as you're
I've
outside
never even
of
met Jerry
that,
Jones.
but
You have. I've never
yeah,
met Jerry
I have met
Jones.
Jerry Jones. He bought me lunch one
Yeah,
day.
you told me you asked him how much credit he had or something on his card.
Yeah, yeah, and he looked at me. I don't know. I don't think there is a limit.
Yeah.
That's
I haven't
awesome.
had that, but let's see what else is going on. Let's see.
I mean, we talked about baseball. They're talking about whether or not. I get a kick out of this because the owners always try to paint the players in this greedy light, and they're just like, "Oh, they want 100% of their salary guaranteed, prorated." They slide that in there that they want 100% of the prorated. So if they're playing 50% of the games, yeah, they want to get paid for 50% of the games. They want to pay them like, oh, we're offering to pay them 70%, not 70% of the games, 70% based on of the 50%.
Yeah. And I was thinking about something you said too the other day. A little bit off topic what you're saying, but you were saying, should Colin Kaepernick, will he probably be in the league? And you were like, I'd like to see him get a chance so that we can just watch him fail and get over this Colin Kaepernick BS. And I'm kind of with you at this point. I'm kind of like, you know what? The problem is though, man, like just being like honest, I can't see the owners doing it. You know why? This is why. Not only is he a distraction, but the minute he's cut, it's going to be because some team's racist or a conspiracy or something like that. Like the
right. I mean, now I think you can hide behind the whole that he's been out of the league.
It doesn't matter if he gets in the league or not. That will not be good enough. Only if he retires wherever he is. Well, they go, okay, he played till he wanted to leave. Anything short of that is a controversy for that franchise forever. And I don't think any team wants to sign up for that. I don't think people think about that.
I think that all they could do is a team would have to work with him behind closed doors and say, look, we're going to sign you to a year. At the end of that year, you just retire. And he'd have to agree to that and then come out and,
Like, let's just face it, man. At this point.
Well, because right now they have the great built-in excuse. Every owner can just say, hey, look, sorry, he's just been out of the game too long. He's just too far behind. You can't be out of the game that long and then expect to just come back in and be a part of it.
Like, and especially in the NFL, where, dude, being out like 3 weeks is a big deal for falling behind in physical activity and whatnot. And they're like, oh, he's in really good shape and whatnot. I'm like,
4 years?
What? 2016 was the last time he played, right?
What's it been, 4 or 5 years?
Let me see. When did
Yeah, 4 years. And you think he can just come right back in?
play? 2000.
I'd actually be interested in his last stat line, too, because I don't think it was very good.
Let's see. When did Colin Kaepernick play? Stats. Game stats. Here we go.
So remember, that was my argument when he was playing. People, they don't want to use him because of his political opinions. I'm like, no, they don't want to play him. They don't want to sign him because he stinks.
Yeah, let's see. The last game he played, like he physically played,
like, and I remember at that time,
the Bills, October 16th, 2016. Wait, maybe I'm wrong about that. Here we go. Oh, he played on January 1st, 2017 against the Seahawks. He had, let's see, 22 attempts, 215 yards.
Okay, so it was still the 2016 season.
But basically, that was his last game because that was the end of their regular season as a team.
Yeah.
So, had basically.
You say 2 attempts for 15 yards or something like that?
No, he had 22 attempts, 215 yards, 9.8 yard average. But what's funny is that was his best game. The game before that, he averaged 5.5 yards. So he just happened to have a decent game, but all the stats, like, let me read you just his average in the 6 games previous and look how bad it is. 5.5, 5.1, 0.8, 6.4, 6.9. And then his average in yards overall, he averaged 103 yards in his last season per game. And that was when he was still starting. He just fell apart towards the end of his career. I mean, no doubt about it. I can't see the owners bringing him back. I just can't see it. And if a team does, it's because they want to be famous. They want to be the team that did it. That gave the guy a chance. You know what I mean? There. Oh, I think we lost Eric. Let's still there? Refresh your browser. Let's wait on Eric. Come back in here. You back? You there? Eric? Let me do it. Let me read. There you are. You there? Are we there? Eric? There he goes. All right. Let's see if he comes back.